All right, let's talk about AP Seminar's Performance Task 1. For a lot of us, it can feel like a huge mountain to climb every single year, right? It's complicated, it's definitely high stakes, and the rules, well, the rules can feel a little bit tricky. But don't worry, think of this as your roadmap. We're going to break down every single step so you can walk into this feeling totally confident. Let's dive in.
So here's our game plan. We're going to hit 6 key areas. First, why PT1 matters so much. Then, what it's actually made of. We'll spend some real time on your role, the playbook for you. We'll map out a timeline, tackle those new authenticity checkpoints, and then finally, talk about getting across that finish line with presentations and scoring.
So first things first, why all the fuss about PT1? It's so important to get your students to understand the stakes right from day one, and honestly, that conversation starts with just one thing. It's weight in their final AP score. Take a look at this. Performance Task 1 is a full 20% of their final score. 20%! It's the first major chunk of their grade for the whole course. And you know, getting this part right, it just builds so much positive momentum for the rest of the year.
Okay, so what exactly do students have to do to earn that 20%? Let's pull back the curtain on the 2 main parts of Performance Task 1. They're separate, but you'll see they are very, very connected.
So it really breaks down into 2 pieces. You've got the individual research report, the IRR. That's a 1,200-word paper that each student does all on their own. And importantly, it gets scored by the College Board. Then you've got the Team Multimedia Presentation, or TMP. This is the group part, the 8 to 10-minute presentation where you do the scoring. And that distinction is everything when it comes to understanding your role.
Which brings us to what might be the most critical piece of this puzzle, your role. The College Board is super specific about this, and really understanding these boundaries, these guardrails, is the key to helping your students succeed without accidentally crossing a line.
Okay, here's the bottom line. You are a facilitator, a coach. You're not the director. So you absolutely should be giving them timelines, checking in on their progress, pointing them toward the library databases. That's all great. Pro tip, when they're forming groups, have them create and sign a team contract. It saves so many headaches later. But, and this is a big but, you cannot give them research questions, you can't correct their grammar, and you can't give them specific "you should do this" feedback. You're the guide, not the ghostwriter. All right, now that we know what to do, let's talk about when to do it. Putting this whole thing on a calendar makes it feel so much less overwhelming. It just turns this giant project into a bunch of smaller, totally manageable steps. Here's just a sample of how this could look. Let's say you kick things off in November. You could do your checkpoint chats in early December, and boom, get the presentations done and dusted before winter break. Imagine that. This schedule gives everyone plenty of breathing room before that final student deadline on April 30th and your big scoring deadline on May 10th. Now, I have to clear something up because this question comes up all the time. You've probably heard about a 30 school days rule. Listen carefully. That is for Performance Task 2. It does not apply to PT1. So for this task, you've got way more flexibility to make the schedule work for you and your students. Okay, let's dig into something that's relatively new and is absolutely non-negotiable. I'm talking about the mandatory checkpoints, which are the College Board's way of making sure the work is authentic. So what in the world are these checkpoints? Well, they're exactly what they sound like. They are short, required conversations that you have with each student. The whole point is to just verify that they're the ones actually doing the research and the thinking. Especially now, with generative AI everywhere, this is how you make sure their work is really their work. For the IRR, there's just one required checkpoint, and it's pretty straightforward. The student turns in a log of their sources. And by the way, giving them a simple template for this is a fantastic support. Then you just have a quick chat, like 2 to 5 minutes. And the test for success is simple. Can they talk about their sources and their process in a way that goes beyond just what's written on the paper? If they can, you're golden.
I know, that sounds good in theory, right? Have a chat. But what do you actually say? What does one of these conversations really sound like when you're sitting across from a student?
This question right here is a perfect example, and it comes straight from the College Board. Which of the sources you've found so far is most important, and why? It's a brilliant question because there's no way to fake the answer. They have to have actually engaged with the material. You could also ask things like, what source surprised you the most? Or how did your research make you change your mind about something? Those are the questions that prove real engagement. All right, we are rounding the final turn. The individual research is in the can, and now it's all about bringing it together as a team for the presentation, acing the oral defense, and for you, handling those last few administrative tasks.
So for the TMP, the team has a tight window, 8 to 10 minutes to present their solution. Every single claim they make has to be backed up by evidence. After they wrap up, you'll ask each student one oral defense question individually. And here's the big logistical piece you cannot forget. You have to video record these presentations and keep those files for a full academic year.
Now, the oral defense question is key. It is not a gotcha question about their content. Its purpose is to see how they reflect on the process of working together. You're looking for answers about collaboration. So ask something like, how did a teammate's research challenge your own perspective? Or tell me about the biggest hurdle your team faced and what you personally did to help overcome it.
And that brings us to the single most important date in this entire process. I want you to circle it, highlight it, put it in your phone, May 10th. That is the drop-dead, absolute final deadline for you to submit your TMP scores and complete those authenticity attestations for every single student. You really, really don't want to miss this.
And if you think I'm being a little dramatic about that deadline, let me just read this quote to you because it comes directly from the College Board. Students will receive a 0 for the IRR if the attestation is not completed by the teacher. A 0! All of that hard work can vanish with one missed click. It is an absolutely essential final step. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. After walking through this whole complex process, what's your main takeaway? Because remember, your role here is so much more than just grading a project. You're the facilitator, the guide, the coach, who is leading students through a research experience that is messy and authentic and incredibly rewarding, and will prepare them for whatever comes next.